welcome to Introduction to New Testament Theology. So in this video, I'm going to go over the basic requirements and policies related to the course. And so you'll see here as I go through the syllabus for you. So the syllabus, of course, has my name, John Harrison, as well as my office number, in case you ever want to give me a call at my office. It also has my email, and that's probably going to be the most effective way to get in touch with me during the course. I do have office hours as well, but I check emails regularly outside of my office hours. But if you happen to be in the area of the OC campus and want to come by and have an office visit, you see my office hours there and be glad to visit with you during any of those times. I also have listed here my virtual office hours. By that, I mean I'm online, particularly at that time, and looking at emails, and we'll respond to emails within that time period. But once again, I oftentimes respond to email questions, responding to students outside of those particular times. All of our syllabi, of course, have the OC mottos and our mission statements, as well as we include our Christian worldview and teaching philosophy. So go over here at the course descriptions and the goals for the course. So what this course is going to do is it's going to introduce students to the history and practice of New Testament theology, what that actually is and what people who have been engaged in this discipline or in this methodology have attempted to do. And in particular, we're going to assess some of the strengths and weaknesses of New Testament theology as it relates to other theological disciplines. Students will also learn how first century AD Greco-Roman and Jewish cultures have shaped and give expression to the theologies that are discernible in the New Testament. That is, what we find the different New Testament authors believing. So, in what way are the things that we see the New Testament authors espousing about their faith? How have these ideas come about? In part because of the ways in which these authors lived in a Jewish culture or within the greater Greco-Roman culture. And we want to try and get to a point where we can lead to critically evaluate how our own contemporary culture attempts to interact constructively with the theology of the New Testament. In other words, the cultures in which we live in, predominantly a Western culture, and for many students here within the United States, how that culture also shapes how we think about our faith and how we want to give expression to it. And so to reflect a little on how that is done today as it was done in the first century. So what's relevant about this course is the successful student, the student who is able to complete all the assignments, will become more knowledgeable about the critical issues involved with the books of the New Testament. They'll be knowledgeable as well how to prepare to explain more accurately what the books of the New Testament are in terms of their genre and their content, and where these ideas likely come from. What the major content is of several books of the New Testament. We will not have time to look at all of them, but give a taste, as it were, of what is in some of these books, and what impact this knowledge can have for understanding New Testament theology. So you'll be able to see these objectives here. And so as far as the objectives, students will be able to identify the major methodologies employed in the study of the New Testament, especially those that deal with understanding some aspect of Second Temple Judaism and Greco-Roman culture in which these books were written, to be able to define what they see New Testament theology is, explain how this discipline is distinctive, why it was created, to summarize major moments in the history of the New Testament theology itself, distinguishing it from other theological disciplines. Also be able to compare and contrast several major questions, issues, New Testament theology's attempts to address. Students will also be able to show how their knowledge of the genre and major content of several New Testament books can be utilized to identify cultural influences upon its authors and its theologies. Explain at least one major theological teaching of a New Testament book and critically reflect on how its theology might be applied to interact constructively with a contemporary cultural context. Students will want to be able to have access to a Bible, of course, and to the New Testament, and particularly any version of the English translation is acceptable. The required textbooks is the David De Silva's Introduction to the New Testament. I have listed here the 2004 edition, but there is a second edition which is also acceptable for students to use. There's also Frank Matera's New Testament Theology, exploring diversity and unity, which students should also make sure that they have access to. So, some of the things that students will be doing in this course, there will be weekly participations that exist by downloading videos that I have and the completion of each week's assignments. There will be video readings, quizzes that will assess what knowledge students have acquired during that week. There's going to be some interactive discussions through discussion boards on issues raised about New Testament theology. Students are going to be expected to participate in those discussion boards each week. There's going to be an essay on New Testament theology, and there will be a rubric that you'll be able to find under course information that outlines the requirements of the essays and when that is due. Students will also create a 10-minute video presentation of a major theology in a New Testament book. And again, there is a rubric that is available for you that outlines the requirements of that video. Students will write a paper on the genre and major context of New Testament books. So you'll be able to at least illustrate a couple of these, and so I'll go over that requirement here with you soon. And finally, a reflection paper on the implication of a book's New Testament theology for today. So again, you want to consult the rubric that will be used to make sure that students understand the assignment and are able to write the essay in accordance with those requirements. Have, of course, the grading scale, and usually we'll try to grade assignments within a week of submission. Students can then check the status of the progress in Grade Center. So students must participate in all the weekly assigned activities and complete them according to the due date you will see in the course schedule. And to do all the reading assignments, watch all the videos, take all the quizzes, make the contributions and discussion boards, and all the other assignments. I am available during the week to interact with students. I monitor weekly students' participations, and during some weeks I'll actually even open up for a time when we can see one another and interact face-to-face in some kind of Zoom or Google Meet time, so that students can raise questions about some of the things that they are reading, or just have a time to chit-chat about some of the things that they are experiencing from the course. And I'll kind of set up a question for the day for students to get involved in if they would like to do that. Of course, communicating with me is going to be via email, which I've already said. Students will also be putting up reflection videos on a couple of weeks, And during this time, you'll submit these videos every other 2 weeks. Then students are going to reflect on what they've learned in the last 2 weeks. So this is again where we will see each other. So you can use other mediums in order to um, illustrate your reflections. You can use memes, you can use photographic imageries, PowerPoint slides, but you need to as well be able to show your face at times in this video. I don't want a reflection video where I'm not seeing your face, at least for part of this. You're going to provide a link for that where you upload that video either to YouTube or you're going to do a Google folder and then provide that link for other students. Then you're going to do this in a kind of discussion board format. So there'll be 7 video reading quizzes in the course, and you can take the quizzes multiple times. Usually I limit it to about 3, but each quiz must be completed by the end of the day on the Sunday of that unit. So during the course, students will participate in these online interactive discussions through discussion board. Each discussion board, students are going to find questions that will be set by me, and they've got to respond to me, plus they have to respond at least to 2 other students before the end of that unit, which is usually by the end of Sunday night. Discussion board participations will be graded then according to the discussion board posting rubric, which you will find in Blackboard. You'll see the description here of the essay on New Testament theology. So the essay is going to be uploaded either as a Word document or as a PDF. And here you're going to describe what you understand New Testament theology to be and why it isn't or it is important for the formation of Christian faith today. For this essay, students may utilize material out of the assigned readings. I would imagine that you would want to use the material work or the De Silva work. But no matter what source you use, you must reference that source according to the Turabian guidelines. Each student then is also supposed to compose a 6-page paper that describes the genre and the major theological context of three books of the New Testament. So usually you're going to choose an example of different genres. So like Gospels would be a genre, Acts would be a genre, letters, Revelation would be an example, Hebrews would be an example. So you'll choose different genre types, and then you will write about the theological content of those 3 books. So very briefly, so if you've got 6 pages, you're basically looking like you only have like 2 pages for each book. So just a brief survey of the theological contributions of that book. So again, descriptions about when the paper is to be uploaded. And I do take off points for each day that this paper is turned in late. You also need to make sure that you have the statement on the paper that, in accordance with policy on academic honesty, the following should be included on the top title page. I attest that this assignment is my own. I have neither offered nor been offered help by another. So this needs to be signed and dated to receive a grade for the paper. So here's a description then of the kind of content of this paper, what you're going to do with it, these different genres. I give it a little example, what someone might do, say for instance, if they want to look at 1 Timothy. You are expected for this paper to use academic sources. I would expect, somewhere, since we've got 3 books, I might expect at least 2 sources that you would use for this. And so, I'm looking for at least 6 different type of academic sources. You might journal articles. You could be using biblical commentaries, encyclopedias, dictionaries, whatever you're able to access or get access to. Of course, you can use our textbook, so that already gives you 2 books that you can use. These students will record a video of them explaining a major theological teaching from the New Testament, how that teaching was informed by its cultural context. Students must also briefly state what implications they see that teaching might have for Christian faith or practice today. So, for instance, if you see something being taught, say, in the Gospel of Matthew, what does that teaching, what implications does that teaching have for how Christians today might practice those ideas? Videos are to be uploaded in Blackboard by the end of the day Sunday at the end of week 5. Then a reflection paper on the significance of New Testament theology is kind of the final thing that a student will do. They will submit a 2-page, very short, very brief reflection paper on what they presented in their video. The paper is focused on the implication the student sees a New Testament theological teaching might have on the student's own cultural context. So, so there is this reflection paper kind of based off of what you did in your video. The paper will be evaluated on how well the student can answer the questions about the contemporary cultural impact of the teaching. Are there any obstacles for Christians who live where the student lives that might have in accepting or practicing that teaching? What would be distinctive about the way Christians who live where the student lives apply this teaching to their lives? So in other words, we're trying to think about being obedient to the theology within the New Testament, but there may be circumstances within a particular culture that a student or a community's observance of that teaching might be shaped in a distinctive way. So you're going to use standard formats for all of that, and again, it's going to be due at the end of the day of the last day of the course. You are expected to have access to a computer, obviously, to do all of this and participate in discussions. Have e-etiquette about how you were to behave when you are involved in interactive discussions, either in discussion boards or when we meet together, virtually in a kind of voluntary chat room. I do accept late work up to 7 days, but I take off 5% for each day that it is late. This course is totally online, so inclement weather is not taken into account for your student participation. But if there are some unusual circumstances in which a student is severely affected by weather, so they've been injured by some kind of weather event, or something makes it difficult for them to get access to the internet in time to upload their files, then I'll take those things into consideration. So then I have my the copyright policy. So you see all of that. All right, so here's the schedule. And you'll see that in week 1, we're going to get to know one another video that I've asked you to put in. This is where you're just recording, telling me a little bit about yourself. Since I know that many of you are in a cohort, I know you're not introducing yourself to one another, but you're introducing yourself to me, and so I'll appreciate that. And this week, very easily, you're going to listen to the videos that I have on Introduction to Primary Sources, methodologies in the study of the New Testament, and what is New Testament theology. You're also expected to read in De Silva and Matera, the kind of opening pages, their introduction sections. You'll have quiz 1, which you can take if you need to a couple of times. And then we have an interactive discussion through discussion board during that week that needs to be completed by the Sunday that week. reply by the Friday to my post, but by the Sunday at least to 2 others. Then you'll see the rest of the schedule here, which is spring break, and then what we'll do in Unit 2. And it's in Unit 2 that you're going to have your first reflection video, where you're just basically reflecting on the things that you've learned during that week. Also, I'll try to set up here a couple of times an opportunity for us to kind of get together online. So if you want to raise questions about some of the things that you're hearing, either in the videos or things that you are reading. And it's in the end of that week 2, which is really our 3rd week since we have spring break. At the end of that 2nd week is your essay on New Testament theology. And then you'll see the rest of them with week 3, our week 4, and then you'll see week 5, week 6, week 7. Now, week 7, this course only goes for 7 weeks. Course material, although we cover 8 weeks, but it's only 7 weeks of instructions. And so it's during that week that you'll have quite a number of things you'll need to complete. So again, listening to videos on the theology of Romans, theology of Philippians and Philemon, the assigned readings in the Silva Matera over those particular books. You'll have that final quiz, this paper on the genre and major content of 3 books. And you also have Unit 8, which is the videos on applying a New Testament theology to contemporary questions, and your reflection paper about what you see as the implications of doing that on these contemporary issues. So and that will complete the course. That will be the final assignment. So I'm glad you're in the course. I hope you learn quite a bit. I know there will be a lot of information for you in this course. And if there's any way during it that I can be of help to you, please do not hesitate to reach out and let me know.